this question is another really important one. And what it's referring to is during this session last week, I mentioned that when I have written my two visions, my two long term visions, the first one was when I was 25 years old. That was my first 5 year vision. And now I'm in my second 5 year vision. That's for June 1st, 2022. And I mentioned that during these periods, I do not change a word in my vision. So that first 5 years when I was 25, didn't change a word for that entire 5 year span. And the current vision that I'm in right now have not changed a single word in that vision. So I also completely understand, while it seems a little bit crazy that with so many things changing in the world that you wouldn't also change your vision. But there's a really, really important reason why. So what I'm talking about with this concept is the idea of what I refer to as sealing your vision. When you go through the visioning process and you've really refined it, you've fleshed it out, it's this cohesive document that represents all facets of your life, then it's time to seal it. And it's time to then officially commit to yourself that you are done with the editing phase, you're done with the wordsmithing phase, and you're ready to move on to working backwards, creating the roadmap, and making it happen. So if you sort of never get to that point of sealing your vision, one big pitfall can be that you never feel like it's quite done being edited, so you never quite move on to the road mapping and making it happen portion of the process. And that, again, is critical, right? Your vision could be a never-ending story. You could always be, changing this word or changing this phrase or making this vignette more vibrant or whatever it is. But that could be just a never-ending story that, again, is never, ever complete. And what is more important is that the intent is there in your vision. If it is there, then at a certain point, you've got to say, I'm done with this part and I'm ready to start living it into existence. And then instead of channeling your energy back into a Word document and changing things as you go, you really want to kind of think of it as that sealed PDF, and you want to just focus that energy on moving forward and making it happen. So that's one sort of fundamental piece of this idea of sealing your vision. Now, the next question comes in as, again, what happens when something completely unexpected rocks our world? What do you do then? And this is actually one of the most important times for our vision not to change. So there's a really key difference here, and the idea is that our vision is like our destination. It's where we are going. And so if you think about yourself on a road trip and you've picked your destination, then absolutely you might hit a roadblock, or you might hit a detour you weren't expecting. You might hit a traffic jam. Your car might break down, right? Something might completely unexpected might come out of the blue that you didn't know was going to happen and you weren't prepared for. But it's not like you're just going to give up on your destination, right? Instead, you're going to figure out how to navigate around that obstacle. Maybe you have to change vehicles, maybe you have to change roads, maybe you have to reach out for help. But again, the key is that you're not just going to turn right around or go back home where you came from, or you're not just going to give up and just sit there on the side of the road for the rest of eternity. And the same goes for your vision. So when so many things are changing, it's really easy to get pulled in all these different directions. And that's one of the reasons it's even more important, again, to have that vision that you can always come back to. When that's the case, then your vision, again, just like this destination we're talking about, like on a road trip, is not a moving target. But how you get there absolutely is going to change. So again, some people get a little freaked out by this idea of sealing your vision, but the thing is that you're not boxing yourself in, you're not holding yourself back from anything. When you have that really solid destination in place, then you're able to be freed up to really navigate, be more intentional, be more proactive, be more creative and innovative about how you're going to navigate around obstacles and get where you want to go. Now, when people, again, are pulled in a lot of different directions and they aren't getting anywhere, oftentimes it's because their path is always changing, maybe their vehicle is always changing, and their destination is always changing too. And if you think about that, if you have both of these variables always changing, you just simply can't navigate that way. Now, the last piece that I'll say about this is when you have your vision sealed, it really keeps you honest with yourself. And when things come up that you weren't expecting, maybe something really sort of tempting happens and you're thinking, oh, maybe I could just do that, and it would be a short-term gain, but at the expense of your long-term vision, then calling yourself back to your vision, going back to that sealed vision will help you, again, go back to the original intent of your vision. And again, be really honest with yourself and say, yes, this sounds so good in the short term, but if I'm really honest, I know that ultimately it's going to sacrifice part of my long-term vision, and I'm not willing to do that. And while that's really hard to do, that is what our vision allows us to do, because it gives us that tool, it gives us that ability to go back to something not just in our minds, not just through an idea we had, but something that is documented in black and white and written down that we can reference. So it really, really helps with that piece of it. And the other piece of it is that you don't sort of want to sanitize your vision just to match up with the circumstances. If you're getting off track to some part of your vision, then yeah, of course it would be easy to go back into your vision and change the wording and say, oh, I didn't actually get to this target, I got to this target instead. But that's not really helping us, right? We want to, again, be honest with ourselves. If we set a target, we did it for a reason. And if we're on track, it's important for us to recognize and know that we're off track instead of just changing the vision to match up with the new circumstance. Instead, we want to figure out how we can, again, navigate around the obstacle and still get where we want to go, even if we've got to change the path or the vehicle itself. Part of that changing of the path and changing of the vehicle if we need to is critical, right? We need to stay flexible and nimble and be able to pivot when we need to, both professionally and personally.